tactics. Critics said Trump's shocking deployment weekend and incidents of clashes between protesters and police. Protesters believe their presence and use of tear gas and flashbang actions, with some claiming that because people were waving the Mexican flag, that Los Angeles was now, quote, occupied territory.
Well, it looks like we have officially made America great again. The president told us at one point a few months ago he intended on turning Gaza Strip into a resort. He never told us he intended turning Hollywood, Los Angeles, into the Gaza Strip.
Los Angeles, City of Angels, now on fire. The scene of the first major reckoning of President Trump's second term. 3 days of protests as people march against the government's policies on immigration. Increasingly violent scenes with both sides blaming the other. The White House accused protesters of using violent tactics. Critics said Trump's shocking deployment of the National Guard is simply because he wants to create chaos and division.
It ain't looking too good, all right? Anytime you have to deploy the National Guard, it's looking horrible. It's literally against the law to deploy the U.S. military and use them for law enforcement, right? So if you're saying that the reason they out there is because there are thousands of unalivers, and you don't have to say unalive, people that cause people to become unalive, that's a law enforcement issue. I mean, if it's even true, if you're saying there's tens of thousands of, cat peelers walking around society, man, that really speaks to the state of the union under your care, but that's not a military issue. You feel me? You can't do things, upset individuals, and then use a heavy hand to suppress their voice. These are your citizens.
Y'all told us to come here for opportunity. We came, and then now it's like, oh, you have to leave. But when I was the working class, y'all loved me, right? But now that we're too many people, what's the issue?
With pockets of demonstrations flaring up over the weekend and incidents of clashes between protesters and police, Trump called in members of California's National Guard. But protesters believe their presence and use of tear gas and flashbang grenades is only inflaming a tense situation, with an Australian reporter struck by a rubber bullet while covering the demonstration.
There we have it. You just saw with your own eyes those out of control protesters on camera. They just discharged their firearm. They literally aimed and pointed at someone, clearly holding a microphone, covering these atrocities. Those unruly protesters engaging in unprovoked violence, and now you see why we need to send the National Guard out. Now you see why the Marines have been deployed. Hey, you saw it with your own eyes. You know what I mean? Hey, don't let someone's lying tongue convince you that you didn't see what you just saw. You just saw the protesters, deliberately endanger the life of someone that clearly was depressed. So that goes to support what our great president has been saying, which is, hey, this is out of control. This is nothing like the orderly protest of January 6th, where one law enforcement officer unfortunately lost their lives. This is nothing like the peaceful protest where every single individual was pardoned. I wonder, is the president gonna have such a kind heart and forgiving heart and be able to pardon all of these these monsters?
You okay? Protesters took over and stopped traffic on the 101 freeway, with some throwing objects at officers who had to take cover. With cars set alight later on, Trump and his supporters said this warranted his actions, with some claiming that because people were waving the Mexican flag, that Los Angeles was now, quote, occupied territory. Trump was asked about the weekend's protests on Sunday.
We're going to be watching it very closely, and when they spit at people, they spit. That's their new thing. They spit, and worse, you know what they throw at them, right? And when that happens, I have a little statement. They say they spit we hit.
Well, you heard him. You heard him. California was just, it's now occupied land because people that are bilingual, they are fighting the brutality that's being forced upon them. You feel me? Now this is the head of our great nation, and he's standing there saying, if you spit, we hit. Once again, where was this on January 6th? Where was it? The state of California, the governor, those that are in charge, they're saying that they don't need the National Guard. They don't want the Marines, U.S. Marines, deployed on U.S. soil. Now here's the thing. Washington, D.C., where the January 6th peaceful protest took place, there's no governor there. So that's where, the president is supposed to take action, because there's no governor that could call in for the National Guard. And as we see during January 6th, hey man, that Nero fiddled while Rome burned. Hey, hey, if you really love this nation, it's gonna be hard for you to stomach stuff like this.
It was on Friday that people began to protest after immigration raids in parts of LA, with people put in unmarked vehicles and then driven away in convoys, with military protection also on hand. Crowds began to form and some people tried to stop the vehicles. Protesters marched on a federal building in downtown LA where it was believed many of those detained were being held. ICE have said that their operations in LA this week resulted in the arrest of 118 so-called aliens. That's people who are not legal residents of the USA. For Trump and Republicans, this is what he won the election on, a hardline stance on immigration from the government. For the people of LA, they say this should be a sanctuary city where they are protected by the state of California.
So, see, that's how the serpent tongue works. Yeah, he said, there are people that voted because they wanted the immigration, quote unquote, issue handled, and you did campaign on bringing about stricter immigration enforcement. However, you said you were targeting the criminals. You said the illegals were going to be targeted, but apparently, even when you target folk, y'all running up in schools, y'all snatching people after funerals. You know what I mean? And then when you do snatch someone and send them to that out there in El Salvador, and the Supreme Court tells you got to bring them back, realizing this is not what the American people voted for. Hey man, you gonna show them, hey, their lawlessness, yeah, we're gonna put a stop to that. But my lawlessness, man, that the law don't apply to me. The law don't, man, you see what I look like?